So, welcome back to the Arcopia Show. This will be episode number 3. Today, I want to talk about the fantasies that people have about SHTF or Mad Max scenarios, or what things are going to look like when everything collapses. And I'm going to pick that apart and kind of go over that and tell you what I think it's actually going to look like. So, books and movies, everybody that are always popular at the box offices, like people like them. I wonder if the average person watching some of these has the cognitive ability to take the metaphors out of them. You know, whoever writes some of these books and puts these movies together are obviously very, very smart people. They're the hidden things in there. They put together some seriously good pieces of artwork, I guess. But, anything from Hunger Games, talking about the districts and the main city hive and the description of those people, to The Walking Dead, to the literal Walking Dead. Majority of the population is now dead and just aimlessly walking around. To Mad Max scenario and what that looks like. V for Vendetta, the surveillance state in there. And then, of course, George Orwell's 1984. But all of these pieces of literal artwork, they have, you can get into the author's or the writer's brain, and it's fiction, but each piece of this art that you consume, you can take things from. You can take metaphors, innuendos, get some ideas. They're fantastic. I love watching quote unquote fiction. But just the metaphor in The Walking Dead, like what a great show that is. But do I think that people are literally going to die and then, wake up and, be decomposing for 20 years or something and still walking around somehow? No. Do I think it's a metaphor for, the general public? I guess. Kind of just walking around, kind of does what they're told. They don't have the ability to have too many thoughts of their own in their head. Eat, sleep, there's some, anyways, good metaphors there. But the Hunger Games and their districts, so each district that's outside of the city, it's kind of like the districts produce everything and the city consumes everything, and the city, everybody's got weird clothes and weird hairstyles, and everything's just weird in the city, and it's almost more closer to nature and normal in the districts, even though that they're slaves essentially for the cities. But there's all these, it's fun to fantasize about what's actually going to happen, but let's break it down to what's actually going to happen. So I guess let's start with getting sucked into the cities. So the rising price of fuel, you can't afford to commute, the death of the small towns, there's no local economy there, the infrastructure's failing, you get sucked into the cities. The city's very convenient, right? It's if you're on a farm and gonna retire and your kids don't want anything to do with the farm, you're gonna sell the farm and buy a condo. Probably have some health problems. You want to be close to your doctor. You don't want to cut the grass anymore. You want to get food delivered. It's pretty easy living in the city. But when you get sucked in there, the city doesn't produce anything. So let's talk about quadrants. So what I see in my city and everywhere that I go, I'm just happen to be a very analytical and observant person when I walk in or enter into these new neighborhoods that are being built. So I think of them as little quadrants, and there's many people that live in those new quadrants that rarely leave the quadrants because the quadrant provides for them. So there's zero production, absolute zero whatsoever in the quadrants, but in that quadrant is their housing. So whether it's a condo or a townhouse, there's no backyard, there's no gardens. Maybe the odd person will have one tiny little raised flower bed as a hobby thing in their 8 foot by 8 foot backyard. In that quadrant is the government school for the daycare, essentially for the people's children, so that they can go be whatever part of their hive job is. So maybe you're a clerk at a grocery store checking out groceries, or work at Tim Hortons, or manage a couple of fast food restaurants, or whatever. But it's all corporate retail, no production type of thing in the city. But these quadrants, so they have the housing, then they'll have corporate fast food. So not a lot of small businesses. That has the final death to those was over the last 2 years. But you'll notice the corporate food system and the big corporations flourished more during that time. But so in Canada, there'll be a Tim Hortons all the time, or a McDonald's, or Dairy Queen, maybe one other of the smaller fast food chains, but everything's a chain. And there'll be a Walmart or other kind of large corporate grocery store. There'll be a hardware type store. In the bigger quadrants, there'll be some like home furniture stores, retail stores, a pet store, maybe a gym, which is a great thing. All this stuff is actually great. Like the quadrant provides, you can literally get almost anything you could possibly need in your little quadrant without traveling very far. So there could be a case that this is wonderful, right? But all these quadrants, the most common store in where I live, and I'm sure it's like this across the board, is Dollarama. That is Canadians' favorite store, the number one store in Canada. If you walk out of your average Dollarama, there's a good chance if you look far enough down the next road that you can see the next Dollarama. Quadrants may even have multiple Dollaramas, or there's a Dollarama and then you can walk out and go across the street to the Dollar Tree. But that's Canadians' favorite store. So just the cheapest consumer goods you could possibly get. And not to talk down Dollarama, like I'll shop there for what popsicle sticks and birthday hats and balloons or something, and things of that nature. But all they have is like cheap toothpaste with the fluoride, and their food aisles is just variations of sugar and corn syrup concoctions with different forms of flavoring and coloring. So the sour sucky candies, the chocolate something rathers, the suckers, the sweet stuff, the sour stuff, the energy drinks, the pop, the chips, but as an entrepreneur, I've always struggled with this one factor. As an entrepreneur, if you help a lot of people in the world, provide them value, are helpful to them, then you should be successful. Like that's what the free market kind of tells you. But if you are an entrepreneur and you provide them some special organic holistic thing that a magic pill that if they take it every day, it's good for their health or some food or whatever, but it's more expensive and it doesn't taste great. In society, you're not going to sell very many because another way to look at democracy is the free market type form of it, where people vote with their dollars. So as an entrepreneur, you don't want to provide something that actually helps them, like extends people's life. It makes them more fit. Increases their quality of life. You want to give people what they want. And I've always struggled with that. So when you see the variations of, sugar and corn syrup flavored snackies, that's just the market providing what the customers want. So when you go in the Hive or in the Quadrant, that's what sells. So why would you stock something that doesn't sell? You want to provide products that sell, and people like cheap artificial food, I guess. But anyway, so the people that live in these cities, their health goes down, their obesity goes up, their medical conditions go up, and diabetes is terrible. Their mental health is terrible when you live in these quadrants, type of thing. But yeah, so it's this quadrant provides. So what a beautiful thing. You can sit in your condo, play your video games. The condo that you either rent or you think you own with some equity, and then you have a mortgage and have to pay property tax on it, so you just rent it essentially from the government, even if you think you own it. Or you sit in your townhouse. In that townhouse, maybe you have some leased furniture. Maybe you even own the furniture and your cutlery and your cups. And in the little garage or your parking spot, you have your leased vehicle. This is just your standard person. They, don't even own the vehicle. The banks own the vehicles too. So where I'm getting with that is you're sitting in your living room. You own, what do you actually own? You own some standard consumer goods. So some kitchen appliances, not the big stuff that's probably included with your rent, but maybe you have an air fryer. You'll have furniture, a massive television, the best video game console of your choosing, and then maybe one hobby. So maybe you have a fish tank, and fish tanks are your thing, or a drum set. Drumming is your life, this is all great, but I'm just trying to describe it, the average person in this quadrant. Okay. Where I'm going with this is Klaus Schwab, you'll own nothing and be happy. Okay. And everybody's, Klaus Schwab, he's evil. This guy's an evil guy. And yeah, maybe so. But you want to try to get in the minds of as many people as you can of different perspectives in life. So I'm going to go off on one more tangent here and then get back to you'll own nothing and be happy. The Illuminati, or that all-seeing eye at the top of the pyramid that's on the dollar bill in the USA, and most people talk about as being some elite group or something. It's being illuminated is a good thing. Okay, so it's Jordan Peterson explained this really good. I'm sure it was him in some presentation or something that he gave, but he was talking about being illuminated, or AKA being enlightened. So when you're born and you're really young, you don't have any life experiences, don't know really anything. So you're kind of in this big group at the bottom of the pyramid where most people are. And then over time you get educated by your, parents, teachers, environment, surroundings, and you keep leveling up that pyramid a little bit. Then you become a teenager. You learn some social skills, some math, some economics a little bit, and then you become a young adult and you learn the ins and outs of how everything works. How does the sewage system work in cities? How does Austrian economics work? How does Keynesian economics work? You learn both sides, and the more educated you get, you travel further and further up this pyramid to the where the more and more minority people are. And when you get closer to the top, you just become more illuminated, and that all-seeing eye is just you working on yourself throughout the course of your life, being illuminated at the top, looking down at the larger macro parts of the pyramid, and it makes you a powerful person to be able to take in information. So you can take in the side of the CEO of some of the biggest corporations. You can kind of enter their mind and see their mindset and see what they believe and what they do and how their mind works. And at the same time, you can still take a homeless person and enter their perspective and see their point of view. When it comes to politics, you can take a conservative or Republican. You can see exactly what the average conservative Republican thinks. And then you can take the other side, the left side of the equation, and you get illuminated enough. You don't even have to speak to these people. You don't have to have an argument because you can argue both sides so well. But anyways, you're going to own nothing and you're going to be happy. This is Klaus Schwab's thing. And that is true. I actually believe that. So do you know why? It's because people own nothing and they're happy about it anyways, the majority of people. And that's today. They don't own their house. They don't own their vehicle, even if they think they do, right? They don't own businesses. They don't own the means of any production. And they're quite happy about it. Like, own nothing and be happy. So owning something, like, why would you want to own something? Like, if you actually owned an old vehicle or something, like, what a pain in the butt. You're going to have to change the oil in it. You're going to have to fix things that are wrong with it. If you own a business, that's a big responsibility. What a pain in the butt. Who in their right mind would want to own a business? Like, that's responsibility. So if you have the preparedness mind, or you're listening to me, you're taking responsibility by the horns. You are personally responsible. That's a high on your hierarchy, of things that are important to you. And responsibility is also freedom. So you can see where the majority of the population in a democracy, where they go, like, I don't want to own anything because I don't want to be responsible, and being responsible means being free. Like, that doesn't sound good. I'd rather not be responsible and have everything provided to me. That's what I'd like. Okay. And the majority people are quite happy about that. Like, that is, and I can see their perspective. They're happy about it. In that quadrant, the quadrant provides. They can go across the street to Dollarama and get their sugar snacks, and then they can stop at the Dairy Queen and get their sugar ice cream snacks. And then in the morning, they can get their coffee that was grown and roasted in another country, and then the sugar that goes in that coffee, and then the coffee cup that was produced in another country, and the coffee cup lid. That's what they want. They want to own nothing and they want to be happy. So when Klaus Schwab comes out and said, this is, what you're going to get. There was a video, I think it came out of the Klaus Schwab type organization or somebody like that, but it was, I think it's Agenda 30, they call it, and it's you're going to own nothing and be happy. And they did a video about it. And it was kind of, people thought it was out there, that'll never happen. And it was essentially, when I watched it, it was like almost what it is right now, except they had an added thing where they're not even going to own their toaster. in their kitchen, they're going to like rent the toaster as well. So they already, some people will lease their furniture, they'll lease their vehicle, they'll lease or finance their house or rent their house or condo or whatever. they're but they're going to take it to toaster. And I don't even think that that's some powerful elite person doing that. I think the average person wants that. Okay. So own nothing, be happy. It's a democracy. That's what they want. That's what they're going to get. So this is what SHTF kind of looks like. And you don't want to get trapped in their SHTF. So if you're a personally responsible person that values your individual rights and your freedoms, and you don't want to eat the sugary snack, you're different than these, you want to try to eat healthy, or you want to be a producer, God forbid. It's like a rat race, this rat trap that every single day, if you're stuck in it and not actively trying to get out of it, it's harder to get out of it. So price of fuel going up, the price of licensing your car, the price of maintaining your car, the fact that most people want to take fossil fuel cars away, then you're going to have to pay for an electric one, and an electric car can't drive that far till it has to be charged. What does the majority of people want as well? Like, when I talk bad about government, or not even bad, when I talk real about government and why government is silly, it's because I'm on the spectrum of I value being responsible and freedom and individual freedom way more than collectivism type of thing. So, but when I talk about government or I don't mean government and probably the picture of a politician pops in your head. I'm talking about all the public sector employees. I'm talking about all the voters, because of the majority of people. Like, government just is what the people vote for. So I'm talking about when they want to not have a pipeline for the environment. They want to tax plant food carbon. They want you to not drive a truck. They don't want you to produce anything. They want you to get a license for this. They want you to take public transportation. They want bicycle lanes and for you to ride your bicycle. Okay, that's what they want. So that's what they're going to get. And if you get stuck in that, now it's really good, but it's very fragile, right? So if any little hiccup, because there's no production in this fantasy land where, we can just ride our bikes to our job where we don't produce, and I'm going to ride my bike to go get, or take the city transit to go get an ice cream cone, or whatever. There's no production there. There's no production. There's no food being grown. There's no things being built. There's no lumber mills. There's no tile factories. There's no computer components. Nothing's being built in these quadrants. It's been outsourced to not even an industrial area. It's now, with globalism, been exported to the world's factory over in China or Vietnam, or essentially the Orients and the Asian countries. And it's fine. It's just very fragile. Well, no, it's not fine. If we had different people here, it would be, we could have some production here, which would be great. But anyways, you're going to get stuck in this death trap. They want to take the guns away, okay? And I'm not, again, government, yes, but the average normie voter in a democracy, the guns are scary, right? Nobody has guns anymore. Like, what do you need guns for? What do you need to store food for? What do you need, firewood for? That's crazy talk. What do you need a car for? You can just walk. But if you get stuck in there, there's no way out, and it gets harder to get out by the day. So that is kind of what SHTF looks like. It's a combination of Hunger Games, Walking Dead, people walking mindlessly around just looking for the next sugar snack. It's Orwell 1984. If you still haven't read that book, I'd recommend you read it, because that's probably the closest depiction of the SHTF that we're currently in, right? But versus, like, you take a little bit off of each of those examples, and that's what it actually looks like. That's where the story ends for most people, with no way out. So whether it's you just die peacefully in your bed from a heart attack or a stroke from the sugary snacks at age 45 or 46, or something in the fragile system breaks and all the people that are producing things can't get it to you. We can't get you the sugary snacks that are temporarily keeping you alive. Then that's where it ends for you as well. But both scenarios, that's where it ends for you. And I don't know, it doesn't seem like a particularly fulfilling life for myself. So that's why, I do what I do. But let's talk about the preppers that they have a fantasy of what SHTF is going to look like. So when the shit hits the fan, what is this going to look like? So lots of people are like, wow, I'll be ganging up, and I'll be pillaging, and I'll be taking over the farms, and I'm going to move out in the country and start a garden. I'm going to grow my own food, stuff like that. And right after I finish this video game, and after my DoorDash delivery pizza comes, that's when I'll do it. So I don't see that Mad Max type. So there's many different examples, but Venezuela is a favorite for, like, another thing that's important to realize is civilizations collapse all the time, and it's fine. Like, it's fine. This happens all the time. In any history book you've ever read, you've probably read about different civilizations, whether it's in China or Europe or Rome or anything, and they're in history books for a reason, because guess what? They all collapsed, every single one, and it's perfectly fine. There's nothing to be afraid of. Civilizations collapse all the time. But how about Venezuela? So they have the first, second, or third largest oil reserve on the planet, but that was their entire economy, and oil fell through, and stupid government policies because of the majority of voters, and anyways, they go into a hyperinflation. Their currency's devalued to almost nothing. Well, I think the average Venezuelan lost like 26 pounds or 29 pounds last time I checked, and a few years ago. But to go on a diet like that, that's probably really beneficial to some people. There are some casualties, some starvations, and some death, and some crime, and whatever, but for the most part, no, the masses didn't die. Like, their currency went to absolute nothing, and they're eating out of the garbage, but nobody died. In Venezuela, it still goes on. It just goes on. What about Zimbabwe, Argentina, for recent history, like hyperinflation type scenarios? What about, the Holodomor in Ukraine? That was terrible. Like, that's part of my, mutt ancestry, but that you don't learn about in school, right? You only learn about the Holocaust but they don't teach you any history about anything other than that. But yeah, like lots of people starved to death, lots of people died, but some people survived, and it just went on. Communist China, Mao killed untold amounts of death from, this stupid policies that they have. Stalin in Russia, the list goes on. Everything just collapses. It's that whole weak men create hard times create strong men create good times create weak men. It's just a standard, like, four-season type stuff. You can't change it. It just is what it is. So don't be afraid civilization's collapsing. But when it does collapse, I don't think it's going to be like, woo, grab the guns and let's go ride our jacked up truck out to the country and take over all these greedy farmers' homesteads and woo. It's like, no, I don't. That's not how it is. The people that talk like that are, you're going to be in your dwelling. So at this point, maybe you can afford a condo. Maybe you just need one roommate or something. But how about Canada talks that there's a massive housing shortage, as if they're trying to prop up the real estate bubble market. Like, we need more housing, so house prices should stay high. That's what they're getting at, like, if you can read between the lines. But one rental property I had, and to buy bare land, I had to sell my equity out of the rental properties. Like, didn't make any money, but switched gears from having rentals to buy land, because you can't get financing for land. They don't want you to have land, so it's hard to get land. But anyways, the one house was 800 square feet, 2-bedroom house, and the people that bought it, they moved 14 people into a 2-bedroom house. So that was something that really stuck with me. And, I switched to the food industry because I always thought, well, 14 people can live in a 2-bedroom house comfortably. Can 14 people eat 2 plates of food? It's like, no, they still need 14 plates of food. So we don't have a housing shortage. It's just that the single family, white picket fence, husband work, wife stays home, looks after the kids, almost is non-existent now. So for, the majority of the population, the majority of the voters, they're going to go from having a condo with 1 roommate to having a condo with 4 roommates, all the way to San Francisco, California style. I'm going to rent a top bunk for $1,500 a month in a room, and each room has 8 people in it, or whatever it is. So we don't have a housing shortage, but I think, just judging on, society as a whole, there's technological advancements that are fantastic. That's awesome. Like, there's some good things about it, but for the most part, at this point, people's quality of life is going to continue to go down. So this is the end of the faith-based monetary system. The inflation of the money printed stuff is finally translating to consumer goods. The welfare state and government is collapsed. All their welfare promises, they don't have the money for it. Like, it's over. The average person has no idea that it's over already. But so most people's quality of life is going to go down. Like, wages always big time lag the consumer price index and inflation in general. So everybody's quality of life is going to go down. So you're going to go from, 1 roommate to 4 to bunk beds to can't afford the beef, so I'm going to eat the bugs and the bug protein or the plant-based protein. I can't afford a big bag of sugary snacks. I can only afford a medium bag of sugary snacks. I can't afford a vehicle, so I'm going to take public transportation. And when you get to that point, there's no way out, and that's where it's going to end for the majority of people. Okay? So some stories may be tragic, but I never like the victim card people play, I guess, is the milk toasty, or the only way I can put it, I guess. I hate it, the victim card. Like, I'm sure that there's the odd actual tragic story, but if everybody is comfortable in their quadrant, comfortable with the system, votes the way that they do, comfortable with the food they eat, they own nothing, and they're happy, that's where it ends. And if that's not how you think, you get your butt out of there, work hard. If you're stuck in there, get out. It's because every day that passes, it's harder to get out. Literally every day, because things move faster at the end of things. But if you get stuck in there, that's where it ends, for better or for worse. And that's kind of what SHTF looks like. So I don't foresee these quadrant dwellers deciding to come out into the country to take vegetables away. Like, most people don't recognize that a plant in the ground is food, because they've never seen that. It's at the grocery store in a nice package that all uniform size, carrots or whatever, and like a carrot that grows in the ground. Like, I'm sure that's some new information for a lot of the voters today. But they don't recognize that as food. Like, maybe some of them have a fantasy. Well, I'm gonna go, butcher the livestock, or go hunting or whatever, and the odd person will, and but I think they're just going to, as times get tougher, they're just going to, like, instead of an 80-inch or 90-inch TV, I don't even know how big, maybe they'll just buy the latest 70-inch. Maybe they'll hold off on buying the latest iPhone. And maybe they're, like, people are going to want to eat the bugs. Like, somebody's going to create a bug factory. They are in Ontario, I think, already, and then somebody's going to come out with some sugary bug snack that's going to give people at least some protein so they don't die, and it'll taste good because it'll be sugary, and that's what people want. That's what they want. So that's what SHTF actually looks like. So it's not Mad Max. It's happening now, and it's a slow burn that's speeding up, and that's kind of where it ends for most people. So, with this platform, like, I have to keep it really milk toasty. I can't tell you too many things, because the censorship, it's hit me in various different ways over the years. So I know better, and there's no point, right? It's like, I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm not even trying to help everyone. I'm trying to give some people information and help a certain amount of people that are, at least kind of know what I'm talking about. So if you have a person that's still, what's the metaphor? Still woke or asleep, I forget. But they don't have the cognitive ability to think for themselves over even just the last 2 years. Like, there's a lot of new people in the preparedness community over the last 2 years, which is great. If you have somebody and you're still trying to wake them up, it's a friend or a family member, and they're still not, just cut them loose right now. There's no point in even trying. It's at this point. So help who you can. It's kind of, you don't want to, you can't help everybody, and there's no point. It's like yelling at a brick wall. Back when I was tried to be political and stuff, that's what I look back at trying to be political. Like, how do you guys not understand this? And it's like yelling. I'd have a more intelligent conversation actually with the echo off of a brick wall than trying to help the average person. But the few people that, if I have a platform and people are listening, that might be, can save some people. And it's great to hear actually with this platform that there is people doing, similar things, even more extravagant things, like they're further along than me even, or they're just starting out, but they're actually actively doing things and getting out of the death trap of these, the city and the consumer, no production type, stuck in there, fake food, fake medical, fake toothpaste, fake everything, the obese people, the people with health problems. Get out of there. And it's great to hear that some people are. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be fantasy land like not most preppers. Well, yeah, most preppers talk about, just like they're talking in a movie, like, I can get a gang of guys and take your ranch over, or it's no, you can't. But I'm trying to be realistic about what it's actually going to look like, and I think I have a good idea about it. So prepare yourself kind of accordingly, and actually just let me try to end this with painting a picture. So actually I'm recording this on Canada Day, so I hear the fireworks going and everything, but I saw article after article of in the news that and in the States as well, that people are switching to hot dogs for their celebration instead of steaks. Was one about inflation, or not even hamburgers, they're switching hot dogs. But when I talk, you'll own nothing and be happy. Like, people just can't put two and two together. I didn't realize, but some people don't have an inner voice in their head, and this was a new revelation to me. Actually, most people, and most people can't see the consequences. So of one action, but there's unintended consequences exponentially off of all of these actions. So in economics particularly, it's frustrating for me. But so they went from the steak to the hamburger to now this year they're doing the hot dogs, is these news articles. But now there's entrepreneurs creating bug protein factories, and you've seen the Beyond Meat burger. So they're trying to, like, out of plant-based, make you a fake meat, because the producers are literally trying to, against all odds, against all the voters, against all the consumers, with the consumers complaining about every step of the way. They're trying to, like, provide you a product, but if the beef is too expensive now, well, we're already creating you the bugs. So if Klaus Schwab says, well, we're going to eat the bugs or something, he's right. But that's what people wanted without knowing that's what they wanted, right? So and it all comes back to economics. It's most people can't define inflation. They don't know what it is, that it's only caused by central banks and the government, which are two separate entities, or they were created as two, but now they're the same, just because at the tail end of it. And they don't understand, when you get something for free, quote unquote, nothing is free. There's an unintended consequence, and that consequence is called inflation. And that means renting the top bunk for your entire paycheck. That means maybe a hot dog made out of bugs and fake meat or something, like enough to keep you kind of alive. Not very healthy, maybe, but kind of alive. And actually, bugs are probably quite healthy. Honestly, like in other cultures, they eat bugs all the time. They're actually probably really good for you. So that's good. The producers are trying for you, and as long as they're sweet enough and have enough sugar on them, I'm sure everybody will be happy. As long as they can get it delivered to their door at the touch of their app and not have to do anything, they'll be happy. Like everybody will be happy. So, again, if you're stuck in there and you don't get out of it, that's where your story ends. So if there's no backup heat, and it goes with everything. So if people say, oh, driving is bad, and everybody says, oh, okay, and then they vote, and then the government says, oh, driving's bad, so they make it expensive, and then all of a sudden nobody has a car or something. Or in the cold weather, everybody's like, let's go electrical. So I thought my car was supposed to get 500 kilometers to a charge. It only got 80. Well, that's because it's minus 50 Celsius outside. And that's if you're like, can afford an electric car. But if you don't have a car, and lots of people don't drive, it's public transit. And again, everything is provided in your quadrant. If something breaks in the supply chain, or if it doesn't even break in the supply chain, it's just the consequence of the quadrant people, consumers, complaining about the producers and to the government, that makes it even harder for the producers to try to provide you your life-sustaining energy, heat in your house, food for you, all the trinkets, all this stuff that you want, and all they do is complain, and it makes it harder. Maybe they'll just stop producing, and then what? These quadrants are just dead, right? It's service and retail economy in Canada and the USA. So in the end, in the very end, Canada and Western countries are still huge beneficiaries of other countries producing things. Like, we still are exporting our inflation to other countries that produce most things for us, and all we do is export fake printed money or currency. But in the end, it will be worse in these Western countries that have trade deficits and don't produce anything anymore. So it's, yeah. And again, if something breaks in the supply chain, or just when this is finally, the economic reality comes back to be a thing again, then there's people with a bunk bed. They own nothing. They're happy about it. There's no vehicles. There's no heat in the winter. What's going to happen? Like, use your imagination. So it's a fragile web we have woven. So if you're interested in following us, we're on YouTube, obviously. This podcast is now going to be on Spotify as well, which I think is nice, because this audio-only platform, it's a nice other way to listen to it. But like, subscribe, comment. If you think I'm absolutely insane, let me know. I love it. I absolutely love it. If somebody can change my mind, those are the best days that I get even more illuminated. So if you can change my perspective on something, hit me with it. I'm just itching for that info. So, but on YouTube, we have lots of info about our deep winter greenhouse construction, our homesteading stuff, some homesteading tips and tricks, and our other podcasts are trying to help a select few people get themselves prepared and get their lives in order and live a great life. So I want as many people as possible to succeed in life and be successful and happy in life. And yeah, I do that in, sharing this information. Hopefully I have an influence. So thanks again for watching.